Welcome everyone to Vidit Gujrathi taking on Nijat Abasov at the FIDE Candidates 2024. This is round number 7, the halfway mark round of the event, and it's a very important round for Vidit Gujrathi. That's because he won his game against Alireza Firuza in the 6th round and is now looking to keep up the momentum to get into a +1 score. Ending the first half with 4 out of 7 would be an excellent way. And Nijat opens with 1 e4. That's a surprise there for Vidit as he gets into a meditation zone, because Nijat has been playing 1 d4 here at the candidates, and this move definitely seems to have taken Vidit by surprise, as he thinks. For Vidit, Nijat has not been an easy opponent. He plays e5 after 4 minutes of thought. That's a lot. So in the World Cup 2023, in the quarterfinals, it was Nijat Abasov who had eliminated Vidit Gujrathi and booked his spot to the candidates. Vidit later on won the Grand Swiss and managed to get in here, but today is the day when he'll be looking for a revenge here. Vidit brings his knight to c6. So interesting choice by Vidit, because Nijat, by playing e4, has made it clear that I'm ready to play something different today. And with it, instead of going for something sharp like the Sicilian or some other opening, plays his normal repertoire, which is the Berlin now with knight f6. And if Nijat wants a draw, like let's say for example knight e4, rook e1, this is a very equalish line. But Nijat says, I'm here for the fight, and he plays d3, which is the anti-Berlin. Vidit brings his bishop out to c5, and very interestingly, Nijat is the one who is fighting here, which is very good news for Vidit, because it means that he can now play this game like any other normal game. Nijat is not trying to sort of hold the game like he did with his other whites. So d takes c6 played. Clearly knight e5 is a mistake because of queen d4 and a double attack. So Nijat here first castles, and now the pawn on e5 is hanging. So Vidit has to be careful about it. And here he brings his knight to d7. A logical move defending the e5 pawn. Now there are some ways to play. One is c3 d4. It's one way. But Nijat goes knight to c3. He develops his knight and asks Vidit, what is your plan going to be? And there are many setups that can be taken here. So it'll be interesting to see what Vidit does. He goes queen e7. And the reason why these anti-Berlins are interesting to see is because it's a battle of imbalances. Black has the bishop pair, slightly mangled structure. White has a good pawn structure, and he tries to exchange off one of the bishops here. You can actually trade, or you can wait with b6. Vidit actually trades. He takes on e3. Nijat takes it back, and now the f file is opened up. And Vidit plays his pawn to b6. He maybe wants to get his bishop here. Also, maybe a5, c5. So these pawns on the queen side will start to sort of rush. a3 played by Nijat. Maybe b4 is on his mind somewhere. And Vidit definitely cannot play c5 right now because of knight jumping in. So maybe a5 is not such a silly move. He goes bishop b7. And now Nijat can actually play b4. That's exactly what he's done. And he prevents c5 for the time being. Actually c5 is possible, but then b5 cramps it down. So Vidit may want to deal with this move b4, and he does so with pushing his pawn to a5. And clearly white doesn't want to take, because if he takes rook a5, this is a weakness here. So you want to be protected against it. And right now the threat also could be to take twice and attack here. So how is Nijat going to deal with all of this? He goes knight e2. and he's basically telling with it that okay, if you want to win the pawn, please go ahead, take and take here, because then e5 would hang, also queen a7 would come, so clearly this is not the way to proceed. Vidit says nothing doing, I'm just castling here and my position is completely fine. Now Nijat brings his knight to g3. I love the way he sort of swivels the knight there, wants to come into the f5 square. I think Vidit needs to stop the knight jump there and just push his pawn to g6, which he does. Pawn to g6. The game is developing slowly and steadily, and you can see that the play is taking place on both sides of the board. There is tension here on the queen side, there's tension on the king side, so a lot of things happening. So queen d2 played, and now pawn moves up to c5. In this way, Vidit is kind of putting pressure on the b4 point, and queen c3 played. Very interesting move, because now after take and take, you are losing the c7 pawn. This is the reason why Nijat has put his queen on c3. He's also putting pressure on the e5 point, so Vidit plays f6 to protect the pawn. You can see the structure now. Black has almost moved so many of his pawns, and Nijat now goes rook fb1. This is fine. Clearly white doesn't want to take here or here because he's left with a bad structure, so Vidit wants to force that move to happen. But for now, Vidit plays his rook to f7, and this move is slightly curious to me. Like, why would he put his rook on f7? What is the reason for it? Maybe it's just to improve his position. I don't know how it happens. Maybe he wants to do like h5 and then the rook can swing over to h7. That could be a possible thing. Nijat brings his knight to d2, and I'm still not clear where the knight is heading, because on c4 it will allow cb4 and no longer the c7 pawn will be attacked. So it's not so simple after knight d2 how Vidit should continue here. He plays pawn to h5. While this looks very nice on the surface, it does weaken the g6 point, and I think it's in the long run a very dangerous move. And Nijat's next move is so good. He's so flexible with his thinking. He stopped h4. The knight can now jump there, can attack g6, and in fact Vidit's position starts to look a bit suspect here, because on the queen side he is unable to release the tension. It will open up the rooks. On the king side he has now created some weaknesses, so Vidit goes queen e6, but I wonder how that helps his position in any way. Like, queen e6 has no real ideas as such. And maybe Nijat now just plays his pawn to h3. I like this move because look, you want to play knight h4, but then queen g4 attacks the knight and defends here. So h3 first takes that square under control. Vidit still looking for a plan. He goes king g7, which brings his king up the board. And now Nijat also brings his king to h2. Nice little move. White's moves are easier to make. Time wise, Nijat has 1 hour 15 minutes. Vidit has 43 minutes, 20 more moves to make. Time management has been Vidit's issue in this tournament. He goes queen d6, now defending the pawn on c7, creating some threat to take this pawn on b4. Let's see how Nijat continues here. Knight h4. I love this move because there's a real threat with knight f5 check, and you win the queen. So Vidit smartly moves his king away to h7. That is the logical thing to do. You move your king away, and now if Nijat can bring his queen into the attack, which is what he does, he plays queen e1. His idea is queen e2. Imagine, like, let's say ab4, queen e2, ba3, and now boom, 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 and game over. This is a crushing attack. This is exactly what Nijat wants to do by bringing his queen back. So Vidit carefully defends his pawn on g6. He has to remain very careful, but you will see that right now Nijat has 2 knights only in the attack, Slowly the queen is coming in. Now there could be threats of taking here, queen h5 and then knight f5. And the rook can also join in into the attack. So Vidit is definitely under so much pressure. I wonder how he will handle all of this. He's right now just making his moves sort of back and forth, hoping to hang in there. He's playing his queen to e6. Nijat pushes his pawn to c3, taking control of this pawn on b4, but with this move he's created a small weakness on the d3 square. Vidit plays his king back to g8, trying to maybe somewhere rush his king over, but it looks very unlikely that the king can run over there. Rook f1. Nijat brings another piece now. Now we have 4 white pieces into the attack, and Vidit down to 24 minutes. He has to make 16 moves. In 24 minutes he pushes his pawn to a4. One bad thing has happened for black out of this, is that the tension on the queen side is lost, and this is not good. Nijat now plays his pawn to c4, another fantastic move. He may be just gaining space later on, maybe b5, very nice move, stopping black from growing c4. Vidit brings his rook. This is a smart move because now he's putting pressure on d3. That's the only weakness in black's camp, and Vidit is wanting to attack it. Queen c2, nice move. He's attacking the pawn on a4. How will Vidit continue now? Will he give up this pawn, or what is his idea? Because bringing the rook back to a8, that feels really bad. So Vidit plays knight f8, and he tells Nijat, if you take here, I will take the pawn on d3 and then I will have counterplay. So Nijat now needs to defend his d pawn. He can do it with rook a d1, just defending here and then launching an attack on a4. I don't know how Vidit would then defend his a4 pawn, but Nijat takes. Woo, he takes here, and he's given black doubled pawns. Vidit takes back, b takes c5. Structurally, white is doing very well. And now I think Nijat may just go rook a d1. He can also go rook b1. He goes rook f3. He's going for the attack, which is slightly risky. Like, you know, he's putting everything there. And with it, at least for the time being, can defend his pawn on a4 with bishop c6. You know, that's just a calm little move to make. But then again, once you defend that pawn on a4, how are you going to meet an attack on the f6 pawn with rook f1 coming in? Vidit is thinking here. Key moment of the game has been reached. Vidit down to less than 20 minutes. Abasov has 45 minutes on the clock. Vidit goes bishop c6. He's showing that patience and calmness, not getting flustered as such. And now Nijat brings his rook, asking Vidit, how are you defending this pawn on f6? Well, Vidit has to go with his knight. He goes knight h7. Well, in a way, white has also now brought all his pieces nicely into the game. And what is the next step that white can do is unclear. Vidit has kind of defended all his weaknesses for the time being. g6, f6, a4. So Nijat needs to find a fresh way to play this position, which is not so easy. Maybe just rook d1 could be one idea, or rook b1. And he is trying to take his time here, because this might be the critical moment to come up with a new plan. Nijat goes knight e2, and this is a bad move. This is a terrible move. He's actually blundered. Can Vidit spot queen d6? Because then d3 is hanging, and if you play rook d1, there's a pin because bishop e4, and then the rook would be hanging. So can Vidit find this move? You can see Vidit has that spark in his eye. He knows that he's got back into the game. He has a chance now. Actually, Nijat wanted to go knight c3, attack a4, go with his knight to d5, but I think he's missed this queen d6. Vidit finds it, and you can see Nijat slowly writing down the move. Everything has changed with this move. Suddenly, it's white who is on the back foot, because now the knight wanted to go to c3, has to change his plans. It's like you were going in a good pace in your race, suddenly you had to make a detour. And now Vidit has another powerful move which he plays f5. You can see step by step he's pushing Nijat back. First the knight had to go to c1, now the pawn comes to f5. You can't take it because bishop takes f3 is hanging. Too many troubles to take care of for Nijat Abasov, and it all turned in just two moves. From being one who was putting pressure, he's the one now under pressure. But a good move here, which is rook coming back to f2. He has to fight, he cannot give up. But Vidit now has a chance to win this game and move to a very good score here. D takes e4. You can see that white structure also has been compromised here. And now how will Vidit continue the game is a question. And he's taking his time, rightly so. He has 17 minutes. He just needs to make 6 more moves. So somehow Vidit managed his time effectively. He got the moves in and now is pressing. He's pressing well. And he goes queen e7, which is a nice move. Attacking the knight on h4. The knight has to move away. And I think there's only one square for the knight, which is knight f3. And he plays it. Knight comes to f3. And maybe now Vidit can start to get very aggressive with his pawn push to g5. Yes, he plays it. g5, g4 coming in, and then g3. Oh my goodness. Nijat goes g3, which is the best move, stopping the pawn from advancing even further. But now can Vidit push his pawn to g4, or does he have anything else? He plays another fantastic move, knight f6, attacking here with his bishop and knight. How does Nijat defend it? There's only one move. Now again knight d2. He plays it. Knight to d2 is on the board. And now a very good move for Vidit is queen d6, because whenever you take here, I will take here, and black is winning. But he plays rook d6, and with this he's lost the advantage. The difference here, by the way, with queen d6 is that if the knight starts to go on this trajectory, the queen can enter d3. But with rook d6, now the knight can come to e2, and it is actually moving from c3, attacking here and attacking this. Vidit goes bishop d7. He's trying to maybe create some chances here on the h3 square. And Nijat can just go knight c3, which is a good move, but he blunders here, knight b1. This is move 39. And in fact, Vidit can now launch a massive attack here with the move h4. Will he find it? This is an important moment. 39th move. 5 minutes on the clock. Finds it. h4 on the board. Now you can't play g4. If you play this, bishop takes, pawn takes, knight takes, and black is winning here. So you have to do something else. Nijat has to play some other move. Knight to c3 is the logical move. Vidit stops it, and we have reached move number 40. Both players get 30 minutes on the clock, and Vidit is completely better. He's totally better. He gets up from his chair. He's very happy with the outcome here. Now he's pressing on all ends. Fantastic chess. Now Nijat Abasov in trouble. Does he go and snatch this pawn on a4? But then g4, and he's going to get smashed on the king side. So g takes h4 played, and now the winning move here is rook h7, looking here. But with 4 minutes of thought, goes g4. This is not a great move. He should have taken his time and played rook h7. The main point being that here rook h3 check, king g1, and queen h7 is very powerful attack. But he goes here g4, and Nijat quickly plays knight g3, which is a fantastic move by him. He's looking to enter on f5 with his knight. Vidit now takes g takes h3, but the attack has kind of fumbled, it feels, somehow here. Another way to now simplify is just rook takes f6, rook takes f6, rook takes f6, queen takes f6, knight h5, and white is liquidating there. But yeah, he takes rook takes f6. He finds it. Wow. Nijat Abasov finds this move. And I think this is what leads to equality now. Vidit no longer holding that edge also, because when pieces come off the board, the advantage for black is diminished. White's king starts to feel a lot safer. Queen takes an f6, I think will happen. Vidit is thinking whether he should take first on g3 or take on f6. These are the two options that he has, and he's just taking his time here, because rook takes g3 is also feasible here. Rook g3, king g3, and now queen f6, but that doesn't change anything particularly. You can also take it now with queen f6, and he will go knight h5. It will lead to similar positions, similar structures. And so with it now, after kind of taking some thought here, I think he will take on f6 with the queen. But you know what has happened is that in these 4 moves after time control, which is very weird because Vidit had a very big advantage, things have slipped out for him. And that many times happens when players in time control, you know, under pressure are finding good moves, but then when the time pressure subsides, they relax a bit and then they are unable to find the good moves there. Now rook g2 check is not good because queen takes g2 takes, and then I take the knight, the queen, the bishop, everything, the full house. So Vidit has to move his queen away now, and he doesn't have a check. This pawn is doing a good job here, stopping any checks or anything from coming. And so Vidit takes the pawn, and now Nijat takes the rook, knight takes g7. Vidit has to take back, king takes g7, and we have a position where white is a pawn down. Black has this very strong pawn on h3, but the only issue is that now black does not have a way to break in on the dark squares. All the control is on the light squares. And so after queen d2, Vidit's bishop is being attacked, and he plays his bishop to c8. He moves his bishop away. Queen e2 played. I think Nijat cannot win this pawn on a4 because he will lose the pawn on e4. So his knight is also not very active. And now the bishop comes in. Attacking the queen. The queen has to move away here from e2, and well, there are some options like queen f1 is possible, but there's no entry point here for the queen. And if you go queen d2, well, there are some entry points there, but then again you have to be careful of your own king. So Nijat comes back to the board, and now let's see the move that he comes up with. He plays his queen to d2, puts his queen there, and now maybe bishop back to c8. Because if you don't do anything, and if you play, let's say, king h7 here, then the knight can take the pawn. The e4 pawn is no longer hanging. And maybe you can go queen e6 here, which is bishop e6, which is possible, but after take, there's a fork here. So Vidit is unable to make much progress. He goes bishop c8. Maybe this is in a way a draw offer. Nijat plays his queen to e2. Will Vidit repeat is the question, because you know he really wanted to win today, but then again the position should justify that will that you have, and perhaps it doesn't justify here because yes, bishop g4 played once again, and Nijat will move his queen back to d2, and maybe the players will agree to a draw. It has been a very tense and hard fought encounter between these two players. Nijat first getting a good position, then Vidit getting a winning position, and then eventually we are landing up here where the players are almost closing in on a threefold repetition. Will that happen? Nijat plays his queen to d2, and I think it's time for them to shake hands, because for Vidit. I don't see any other way to get into the position. He would have loved to make use of his h3 pawn, but he's unable to do so, and I think he's about to call the arbiter, but Nijat says, well, I'm happy with the draw there, and so they shake hands and the players have agreed to a draw. A fantastic game. Let's listen to their analysis after the game.
Sorry?
It should be really good.
The end game?
Question?
No, the end game I think is a
But
trap.
yeah,
I mean,
I got g5.
yeah, I
look
thought
rushing.
you should have taken instead of going g4. The g4, knight g3, all this rook f6 stuff. And then,
gh4.
yeah,
g1.
yeah, I mean, or g4, knight g3, here some moves. Because after taking it, I thought I'm not worse anymore.
But what can I do?
Like rook g6 or rook h7 or something.
h5.
Yeah, I was thinking this, and then,
And you just move king h1.
and now you take,
King h1.
yeah, and then,
I don't think I'll be anything.
yeah, I don't know, because the end game I think is a draw. Like, the bishop is,
If I play gh4, maybe is the way.
yeah, rook g, I was trying to go rook g1 anyways.
Yeah, rook g1, maybe
I mean,
queen e6.
I completely overlooked queen d6 and f5. Like, I played too slow. I was trying to get my knight to d5 and then knight d2, queen d6, I'm just out of no remorse, yeah? I mean, until there, I thought I'm pressing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I just played to,
h5 was a bad move for me.
yeah. I mean, I was waiting for h5, just then return and kind of,
Yeah, no, it felt unpleasant. But I think after f5 there should be some win somewhere, yeah?
for black.
g5,
Yeah.
g3 was good move, only move.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
I was thinking of giving up queen g4, queen h4, but I don't think it really works.
Queen, where do you,
Instead of knight f6, g4, but
yeah.
maybe knight f6 is not good.
Yeah, I don't know, it looked very, very unpleasant. I mean, especially from what I got.
Yeah,
I mean, I just wanted to,
knight f6, you play knight d2.
yeah,
I can't take rook d2, that's the problem. Maybe rook d6 is...
yeah, because rook f8 checks out. Because what if not rook d6, eh? I mean, if not this rook f8, I would, instead of knight d2, go knight a2. Just not to have this rook d2.
Yeah, yeah.
But I saw this rook f8. But,
Knight d2, bishop d7, knight c...
yeah, knight d...
No, you played knight b1, which was strange move. I didn't understand this one. Knight
I
b1.
mean, so what to do, otherwise I resign.
Knight c3, you can do.
Queen e6.
g4.
No, queen e6 here. I saw something there. Yeah, I wanted to have this knight here and then bring another
But
knight.
after knight b1, I think it should be 100% lost.
Yeah, it looked very good.
I played what, h4, yeah?
Yeah.
No, g4.
Yeah.
h4.
You played h4.
h4, knight c3.
Yeah.
c6, gh4, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, it's strange, there's no win. Bishop h3 is not working, right?
No, I mean I didn't see a clear win there.
Bishop h3, king h3, you just take.
I don't see what you do there. Like my knight is kind of controlling
It's
stuff.
amazing that you have this rook h6.